I'm in a churchyard with a can of shaving foam. This is Llanfair Isgaer Church. It's a 13th century church in the county of Gwynedd in Wales. Translated to English, the church name means St Mary's Church below the fort. And there used to be a Roman fort, or fortlet at least, right next to this churchyard. And the Romans used this spot in 67 AD to invade Ynys Mon, just across the water there. Ynys Mon was the last stronghold of the Druids, which was seen as a threat to the Romans. The Roman force that invaded could have been up to 10,000 men strong. It would have been a brutal invasion, and they killed probably most of the Druids. But they had to cut the invasion short as an uprising began in southern Britain. The Romans launched a second invasion 10 years later with a much smaller force, and the Druids were kind of waiting for the Romans, expecting them to try and cross the river by boat. But the Roman cavalry actually swam across the river and took the Druids by surprise. Although the core of the church dates to the 13th century, in the 19th century a very famous architect restored the church. That architect was George Gilbert Scott, and he restored the church in 1865. His work added a new south porch, and he inserted windows into the nave walls, and he renewed the east and west windows. It's George Gilbert Scott that designed the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in London, the University of Glasgow building, and St Mary's Cathedral in Edinburgh. He was also responsible for St Nicolai Church in Hamburg, Germany, Christ Church Cathedral in New Zealand, St John's Cathedral in Newfoundland, Canada, and the Cathedral of St George in Perth, as well as many other buildings. You may be wondering what I'm going to do with the shaving foam, so I'll go and show you now. For a few seconds this is going to look a little bit disrespectful, but you'll soon see what I'm doing. Okay, it's not going as well as planned, but I think you're getting the gist of what I'm doing. There is a reason why I've picked this grave, and I'll explain in a second. Okay, I've got some wipes in the car. Probably have to come back and clean this, I think. I think I'll do that now, actually. Okay, back with some wipes. It's a lot easier to read now. I'll give it a better clean before I leave. John Jones, Henty, Portinorwick, Henty, the name of the house, that would mean old house. Died December the 11th, 1923, aged 90 years. Also Catherine Jones, bride of the above, who died January 23rd, 1922, aged 87. At the bottom it says they were married for 67 years. Now the reason I'm showing you this grave is John and Catherine Jones were my great grandparents, and I've actually got a photograph of John Jones. And he used to work in the slate industry, but not in a quarry, but on the docks, loading slate onto ships. Those ships would have sailed down the river here to markets in Europe and worldwide. I think Germany, prior to World War I, was a big customer for the slate quarries. I don't know much else about them. I know that the house doesn't exist anymore, and I believe it was a one-room house with sawdust on the floor. Here lies the body of John Jones of Tyddyn Madog Goch, gentleman who departed this life the 11th day of August 1779, aged 79 years. In memory of Ellen, wife of W. Pugh Williams, painter at Pordinorwick, the one who died May 23rd, 1885 at 31 years old. In memory of Elizabeth, wife of Hugh Roberts, the one who died March 25th, 1864 at 19 years old. In memory of William Lloyd Roberts, National Schoolmaster of this parish for 30 years. This is obviously the grave of a ship's captain or somebody who's in the Navy, possibly. We've got these three fountains, I guess. I can't read the bit on the front there, but sacred to the memory of Dame Agnes Turner, widow of the said Sir Llewellyn Turner of Caernarfon, died 13th March 1826, aged 73. Llewellyn Turner was a local politician in the town of Caernarfon. He eradicated cholera in the town by providing clean drinking water to the slum areas. This might explain the fountains on the grave. Very large grave here. In memory of the children of Richard Williams' Castle Hotel, Caernarfon. Used to go drinking there by Anne, his wife. That's kind of sad. Martha Elizabeth, born 24th of May 1840, died on the 26th of May 1840. They had another daughter which they also called Martha, born 28th of June 1842, died 5th of July 1842. I may have a big trip coming up in a couple of months where I'm going to be making a lot of videos abroad. So I'm going to have to try and make a number of videos from now until then, so I can help to fund that. If you want to sponsor one of those videos that I'll make abroad, please leave a super thanks donation. Anybody who leaves a super thanks donation by, say, the end of August, I'll mention your channel name in one of those videos. So you'll be kind of sponsoring a video. If you've got a controversial channel name, I won't mention it. Elizabeth, dear bride of J.R. Jones, Dinas Slateworks, Pordinorwick, who died March 11th, 1879, at 36 years old. Robert Jones, butcher, Banker Street, Portsden, Norwich, died April 15th, 1890, aged 56. Also Ellen, dear daughter, died July 1875, aged 4 months. Also his bride, Laura Jones, she died in 1930 at the age of 85. And right next to him here, there's a grave of a James Blanchard, and it states the cause of death on this: died August 20th, 1875, aged 19, drowned whilst bathing under Llanfair. I think the grave of my great-grandfather and some other ancestors are in this area here. I think the gravestone was broken and it was on its flat, so it could be one of these which are kind of covered with grass. One of my great uncles is buried in that grave. He died 10 years old of TB. I've seen a photograph of an old newspaper clipping which gave the details of his funeral, and it's really detailed. It even says how many cars were at the funeral. There were 6 cars, and it goes on to name the people who were in each car. There's a number of these yew trees in the churchyard. Wow, just happened to notice this one. Do you remember that grave I showed you earlier, the big one with the anchor on it? Well, this grave here in memory of Anne Barber, died October 10th, 1862, aged 68 years. The faithful housekeeper of Mrs. Turner of Parcia. The church is kind of tucked away here, so many people don't even realise that there's a church here. And there's actually, from what I can see, there's no videos about the church on YouTube, apart from 1 or 2 drone videos.